Yo, what is up, guys? I am here with John Shults. I believe I'm saying that name right.
Yep, that's right. How's it going, Sean?
It's going well, man. It's a pleasure to have you here. John is,
Thank
I
you.
guess, the owner of True Vintage Guitar, which is a. I'll let you word it better than I probably would.
I sell vintage guitars online.
Okay,
So,
there you go. It's that
yeah.
easy, I guess. But you
Yeah.
also you appreciate also being approached to buy them as well, correctly? Correct.
Yeah. I professionally buy vintage guitars. Yeah,
There you
that's
go.
that's a good way to put it
I
as
mean, that's
well.
a that's so the reason we started talking is he's a regular at my coffee shop.
Love
I,
seeds.
yes, yeah, they're a sponsor as well. So
All right.
if you need subscription, don't you fret as a coupon code. Hashtag
Right.
ad.
Okay. Good to know.
Um,
I actually do need that.
so we were talking one day in front of the shop, and I was telling him how Victoria, my girlfriend, is pretty much doing the same thing with vintage handbags. So it's just kind of cool to be on the other side of it because, like, I watch her do it, but then hearing your explanation for how you run the business, and it's just cool. It's cool to see.
Yeah. Thanks.
Um, how long have you been doing it?
So I started kind of getting into vintage guitars like 2009. I was in school at Alabama, and just kind of bought one or two, and then had to sell them, and was kind of like, man, would love to get more, but of course I, was in school, didn't have a ton of cash on hand. I was working, part time, and just had a little bit of cash to spend. So just kind of started snowballing. Graduated in 2011 and got married, and had a small collection that I kind of bought and sold out of to kind of make a little money until I got a full time job. I actually started working for my dad's company
Okay.
a few months after we graduated, and was just doing the guitar thing on the side because I really just didn't know much about the industry and wasn't really sure, like, is this a fun side gig, or is this a real thing?
Right.
It's like
Like
not exactly
every
clear.
hobby everyone has, they're like,
Sure.
"Can I make
Yeah.
money doing this?"
It's like, the deep down me would say, absolutely, like, you got to give this a shot. But then the reasonable side of me was like, okay, I'm married now, like, I
Yeah.
can't just make
Yeah.
decisions, by myself. So 2.5 years went by with my dad's company, and I just kept doing the guitar thing, and just it just consumed so much of my, like, spare time. It's pretty much all I did, other than going to work full time. And the full time job just wasn't really doing it for us. So my wife was like, okay, you've got to give this a shot. While we were 25. And so
That support is cool.
2000.
It's awesome.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. I could not have done any of this without her support. She is a school teacher, and
Oh,
so she was like, "All right, I'm gonna work full time, and you pursue this, and then we'll see where we are in a year." So 2014 February is when I went full time, and it just kind of barely made that mark the first year of what it needed to do for us to
yeah.
keep going. And then it kind of started snowballing after that. So yeah, full time since 2014, essentially.
Wow,
Um,
2014. That's a while.
yeah.
Um,
Uh,
so my girlfriend kind of fell into it from COVID, because
oh
like
yeah.
everyone
Hmm.
kind of lost their jobs and had to make a
Gosh.
serious
Yeah.
life transition.
Wow.
How has this affected your business?
Yeah. Good. Well, so what was it? March 14th was kind of the official, like, kind
Yeah.
of when everything kind of locked down or started to lock down. I was actually on the road to Asheville, North Carolina for a guitar show.
Oh,
So
okay.
I had,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Did they let
I
that
had
happen?
rented. No. I had
Okay.
rented a Suburban. I had, a hotel room. I was putting up a buddy of mine. We were going to kind of make a whole weekend of it. And I got halfway there, and one of my friends, another dealer, called me and was like, "Hey man, have you heard the news?" And I was like, "No." And yeah, so I was about an hour out from Asheville. Excuse me, not Nashville, Asheville.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Um,
I love that spot.
so I'd driven like 4.5 hours, 5 hours or so, and had to turn around and bring it back
Dang,
home.
man. Yeah, it's so I guess you
So
attend like a vintage guitar show, like it's a bunch of
yeah,
older.
that's where a lot of the larger dealers kind of source a lot of their inventory. I don't. That's not really my style of buying guitars, because I just kind of tend to go to the internet for
Well,
most of
and
that.
at those spots, people kind of know the value of their guitars,
Oh,
right?
sure.
Yeah.
But that's not really how it works, is that people don't know the value. Pretty much everyone at least feels like they have a good idea of what the value of
Right.
the guitar
They
is.
just
It's
have a hard
usually
time getting
north.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's usually north of what it's actually worth. And
Ah,
so,
yeah, yeah.
not only that, but like selling guitars takes a lot of work. You can't just like snap a couple of cell phone pics and then be like, yeah, it's a 64 Strat, pay me all the money, and then someone does. It's like that's not exactly your customer's not going to be excited if you just
Right.
like slap it in a cardboard box and put it out. You know, I guess my style of selling guitars involves a lot of saying what I think it is in the description, and then also proving what I think it is in the photographs. So, you get the typical photographs, front and back of the body, front and back of the neck, and then you also get underneath the pick guard. What do all the solder joints look like? What are the potentiometer codes?
Whoa.
What are the neck? What does the neck pocket look like? How can I be sure this is an original finish if I can't see the neck pocket? So it kind of like it takes me half a day to list a guitar for sale almost, because I've got to do all those pictures, got to write the description, got to weigh it, got to measure the neck,
Yeah.
and then after you're done there, I got to list it on my website, then I've got to list it on a couple other websites, to kind of draw in the buyers. So yeah, not only that, but now I've been selling guitars for over 10 years. People kind of have seen my stuff before and they're like, okay, I'd consider buying from that guy. But if you're just selling one guitar and no one knows who you are, they're
Right.
probably
Yeah.
more hesitant.
You're a more
to,
reputable
to
source.
Yeah, just because I've been doing it for a long time.
It's crazy.
So.
You've been selling guitars since 2014, but you probably know so much more about the instruments, even though I've been touring for like almost 10 years. That like some of those things I probably wouldn't know anything about. You know what I mean? Solder joints, all that stuff. There's no way.
Well, definitely the collectible side. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a guitar tech, but I end up teching for myself.
Yeah.
Just for speed, honestly. I love working with Jason Burns down at Homewood Music.
Yeah.
Talk to
So
him?
I met Jason a long time ago, purely because he went to the same tattoo shop that I went to.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
we have mutual friends through those guys.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. I started bringing guitars to him back in like 2011, I think. And so he does all my like bigger repairs, neck resets on acoustics,
Right.
and that kind of stuff. But he's kind of taught me how to kind of do a lot of the teching kind of stuff for myself, just basic setup stuff. Most of these guitars that I buy, I try to buy. This is just why I don't really buy at guitar shows, is because I try to source from like original owners or families of original owners. And so the guitars really haven't been played professionally in 20, 30, 40 years sometimes. So they all kind of need basically the same stuff after that much time. If it's not like a major repair, I'll end up doing all the like cleaning, setup, lubricating all the different parts.
Do you think you sell most of your guitars for play?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
There's very few. I mean, the only ones that don't get played are the ones that are like truly, truly mint and have never been touched. That's that's 2 or 3 guitars I've ever sold.
Yeah. That's good. That's good to hear. I don't like the idea of having a guitar that you don't like really enjoy and play, and it's just sitting somewhere.
Yeah.
Hanging on a wall.
I don't have the clientele of like collectors who don't play. It's like if a guitar shows up and it doesn't play right, I'm gonna find out, in the next 10 minutes. Because I do a 48-hour approval period on everything I sell. So it's like, I don't have an in-person shop. And so everyone that buys is kind of buying based off my description. So I want the guitar to like, meet those expectations when they get it. And if not, I'm happy to take it back, because I don't want someone to get stuck with something that they didn't expect, or, it just, it's like I had to buy this $10,000 guitar off of 20 pictures instead of holding it in my hand.
Oof, yeah.
I want to make sure that that person can send it back if it doesn't meet their expectations.
Right.
So,
wow, that's really cool. And it's like, being a touring musician, I know as well, like how much work a guitar needs, even when it's not been through something. Like just
Yeah.
the sheer fact of it sitting somewhere, that it's all tension based, right? So it's
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
so many neck adjustments, probably dust, and I've had a guitar that was sitting in my friend's basement, and because it was moist in there, every piece of hardware had rusted out.
Ooh.
So it's
Yeah.
like
I've run into
just
that.
sitting around, your guitar can
Yeah.
literally ruin. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, I was just cleaning up a 62 Fender Jaguar,
Yeah, so
Olympic
that's
white.
after following your Instagram, that was like the first thing I saw you like go through all the details about the guitar, and
Nice.
it's like you really take it down to its guts and like
Yeah,
explain.
especially on that guitar, because the reason why it was valuable, like almost 2 or 3 times as valuable as a just standard example, is because of that finish, as well as the like slab fretboard. So if it's not what I say it is, it's not worth what I want it to be. so
Right.
so that's why I wanted to like go through and explain everything, so that it's easier to buy something if the information is known.
Right.
Like if
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
just, I know he says that's an Olympic white, original finish, but how do I know for sure? What if he's not very experienced, and I understand because I've been inexperienced and tried to sell guitars and
Yeah.
been wrong about stuff.
Is there
And so,
something that you catch a lot of times like that isn't original? Is there like a common thing in that category?
um, usually not. I can usually tell common things in pictures before I get them in. But yeah, I mean, I've been wrong about stuff before plenty of times, and will be wrong again, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's not a flawless science.
Right, but then again, like if I photograph everything inside and out, people can just know for themselves,
Right.
so, and it kind of gives a little transparency to an industry that's traditionally a little kind of cutthroat and, a cloak and dagger.
Yeah.
So,
Spending and making money, man. Everyone's
yeah,
cutthroat about that. It's crazy.
sure. But yeah, I mean, that 62 Jaguar had the like height adjustment Allen wrench screws inside the bridge saddles, and they were all frozen up. So I had to get the soldering iron out to like heat up those two pieces of metal to get them to kind of break loose, and then I could
Wow.
get them out. So
Yeah, it's tech stuff I would never be comfortable doing while yeah.
yeah, definitely had the bridge off the guitar.
Yes,
Soldering
yeah,
iron
yeah,
near
because
the guitar.
you'll peel the paint on that real quick.
Yeah.
Well, let's back up a little bit. Let's talk about, so how did you find a love for guitars in general? Like, were you a player before, and
Oh
then
man.
because
I
I really like to
probably
dive deep on like personality and like getting to know the
Yeah, yeah.
people. Yeah.
I am probably a worse player than any of your listeners. So I have kind of like a more of a technical mind than like a music mind or musician mind. And one reason for that is that I didn't really have the I don't have like a musical pedigree or background or even a deep knowledge of music, and I like am becoming more and more aware of that as I like just listen more. And
Yeah.
like I was thinking the other day, like I was watching the Strokes on SNL, and I was like, wow,
Wow.
this is an awesome band that I just never got.
Yeah.
I would listen to that so much in the like 2000s, but I just like never even got around
Yeah,
to it
but
for
like
some reason.
even when you have like music proficiency, you find yourself doing that all the time. Like I
Okay.
I hear a band and I'm like, this band is awesome? Question mark. Like you're like, what? Where did they? It's just the world's too saturated. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's too much. I'll never know every band in the world. You know what I mean?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but mine is even like worse than that. Even just like classic rock stuff. My parents didn't listen to music. I'm one of 6 kids, and
Wow.
really the only like music interested. They all love music, but
Right.
not like as a hobby or as a
As a business.
certainly not a
Yeah.
profession. So I approached the guitar from more like at a young age. I remember seeing it and being like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen, and I want to do stuff with it, but I don't know anything about music.
Right.
I wanted to play music because guitars are so cool. And that's kind of the approach that I've got here. No one's really paying me to play music. But I do kind of have a pretty good working knowledge of at least the catalogs from Gibson, Martin, and Fender, and Epiphone, and that kind of stuff. So, and just old guitars, I guess, kind of, I was like, you don't have to be like a guitar nerd to think that an old guitar is cool.
Right.
Just
well, a lot of
look at that
people
design.
associate it with the player, right? So like,
Okay, yeah.
when I see a black Gibson SG, I immediately think of Black Sabbath. You know what I mean? And then that guitar to me is cool because that's what Black Sabbath played. You know what I mean? That's my mentality, at least. Like, especially like Cream Fender Stratocaster, I immediately think Eric Clapton, or it's just like you have those people who like kind of really revolutionized each of those instruments in a way.
Yeah.
Is it kind of like that with you?
More, no, it's like
it's just they're
like
cool.
Let's say we don't know anything about music, and you walk by a guitar. Can I go front facing? Yeah. If you walk by one of those jazz masters, you're gonna look at it and be like, "What? That is so cool!" That's just an interesting looking item. Even if you don't know what it does. I think that's kind of what drew me to it. I remember like asking my mom to get me an electric guitar when I don't even know how old I was. But she thought I was asking for a bass guitar. She was like, "Well, what do you want a bass guitar for?" Like,
no, Mom.
We had no background for music, and I just ended up going that direction for whatever reason. But as far as like vintage, I remember when that happened. My grandmother was still alive, and but she had lung cancer, and it was really bad. So we went up there to just spend time. She lived in Tennessee, a couple hours away, and she was kind of on bed rest and not really supposed to talk that much. Yep. And we were talking about our mutual love of old things. Like, just she loved furniture, and she had this pie safe that she loved, and I was like, okay, you stop talking, let me talk to you about the old stuff that I like. She wasn't supposed to be talking that much, and we just talked about guitars, and I don't know, man, it just kind of felt like gravity. Just vintage guitars.
Well, that's kind of how it has to feel when you decide to do something full time. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I'm sure everyone told me that I wasn't going to be playing in a band when I was growing up. That's like that's an insane.
Yeah.
It has to be a gravity. There has to be something like that calling to you.
Kind of no other option.
Yeah.
And definitely at my wife, kind of pushing me that direction as well. Like, you've made this a lucrative hobby. There's no reason to not give it a try full time.
Yeah.
So super grateful because we definitely would not have made that push without her being like, yes, you need to do this now. So yeah, man. Well, tell me about like your role as, like, do you tech for yourself when you're touring, or
yeah, unless something really bad. So what I'll typically do is I will have my guitar set up before a tour. That way there's like a baseline for them to be in condition. And then I change my strings I probably should do it every 2 days, which is insane, but it's a metal show and I have really acidic sweat. My sweat actually ruins everything. It's a huge bummer.
Are you playing like tremolo tail pieces, or?
No, I have one. And it's just, we move too much for me to do that. We're even thinking about moving to Evertunes, but we play some weird tunings live where we have to switch on the fly. Do you even know what an Evertune is?
I don't.
Okay.
It was made after 1980.
Right. That's like the newest technology you could probably think of is the Evertune.
Okay.
So they made a bridge. Cool. This is hilarious. This is amazing. They made a bridge that it's floating, suspended like a Floyd, but each saddle is suspended. And like each string basically sits on like I'm probably butchering this. If someone in the chat could help me, but it basically sits on like a pendulum to where it always sustains whatever note you're hitting.
Whoa.
So you could you could take like a shovel and rake it across a chord and it would be in perfect tune. Like, no matter how hard you're hitting, no matter what the guitar's been through, you could ship it to Antarctica where the conditions are freezing, and you'd pull it out of the case and it would be in tune.
No way. Wow.
Yes. So that is
it's not exactly the same with the Jazzmaster.
That is the anti-vintage.
Yeah.
I think the most nightmare bridges for me when I think of a vintage guitar are those like tail pieces that are entirely suspended floating. Like those things blow my like. You'd probably see like Gretsch guitars. Yeah, those things are so crazy.
Like the Bigsby's. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I would have no idea what to do with those.
Those are tough to keep in tune for sure.
Yep.
One of the kind of like main focuses of guitars that I've got right now are the like Fender offset guitars. So Jazzmasters, Jaguars, notoriously difficult to set up. Notoriously, like when you go into a guitar shop and you pull down the Jazzmaster or Jaguar,
they're out of tune. Yeah,
they just suck.
It's just floating bridges in general. So I struggle with them so hard. So I have to. So like as a touring musician, part of my startup when picking a guitar is to make sure it has the least amount of maintenance as possible.
Okay.
Locking tuners, set hardtail bridge.
All right.
Yeah, it just has to be.
Yeah, you've got different needs than I do. You know, if my guitar's out of tune.
Which I love playing my floating trim guitar at home because I don't have to worry about it like me doing a spin and flailing it out of tune.
Yeah. For sure.
But that being said, I've kind of like skated by. Like my tech needs could probably, or my tech knowledge could probably be a lot better than what I have because I've kind of always just gone by the skin of my teeth. You know what I mean?
Man, there's always more to learn. You know, you know, I've definitely, you know, like every time I set up a Jazzmaster or a Jaguar, I do it a little bit differently and like kind of tweak it. So yeah, but you also kind of have to sink or swim, right? Like yeah.
Like I'll play the show with a piece of shit guitar before, you know what I mean? Like
yeah, for sure.
It's definitely a fight or flight. Have you? I guess you haven't really experienced any like more technical Floyd Rose bridges and anything like that. You're usually just the floating Strat style bridge or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of like I mean. Yeah, I've had one guitar with I believe it had a Kaler, and it was a big bummer because it was a 65 Strat in Fiesta Red, which is like one of the rare, more desirable colors. But you know, they kind of hacked it to
put that bridge in. Wow,
Kaler in there, so I avoided it. You know, I was like I didn't mess with it. But
dude, you should give Evertune a Google after this because the amount of wood you have to cut out of your guitar to fit one of those things in it. Like I've had guitar manufacturers be like, I'm not putting an Evertune in my guitar because like you have to basically like hollow out like a brick of wood from where because it has to sit behind the pickups and it's just this crazy. It's an insane piece of technology. However, I will say my band does not record without one. They're that crucial at this point.
Cool.
But it's not vintage, so you don't really have to worry about it. In all reality, with my genre of music and like. I play a digital amp simulator. Like we're probably so far on the spectrum of music and gear and stuff. But that's also why I kind of wanted to do this because it's just interesting to hear from the other side and like give appreciation.
Like I'm all for the like analog, you know, best you can, you know, that kind of stuff. But I also like personally have my own digital like gear, you know, so like I have a Strymon Iridium kind of amp box. And so, because it's just always there and I've got 3 different amps. So if I want like a Marshall, I just kind of click it over. And if I want like a Blackface Deluxe reverb, I've got that too. I've got an AC30, you know, it's like I can just dial that in so quickly and also don't have to worry about ear fatigue, you know, so there's a ton of benefits. So I'm like, you know, best piece of gear for the application. So if I'm just here by myself, you know, I'm going to plug into a tube amp because it's awesome. You know, it's tons of fun. And so like if I was touring, you know, with, you know, any of these Princeton reverbs, I'd have issues, you know?
Well, which the cool thing about those amps in that genre, like you see a lot of blues dudes playing huge stadiums with those guitars and they just have a mic through the PA or those amps because they love that tone. And that's just how they're, you know, I mean, I think John Mayer played for a long time with his two rocks just mic'd up through the PA, and it was just crazy, you know? It's like,
especially if you've got someone to kind of dial that in and haul it in and out for you, you know?
Oh, yeah. Well, I always say the sound guy is the most important dude on tour, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the antithesis of all that digital gear is like the Space Echoes. Ever messed with those?
I've never seen that in my life. Which is funny because it looks like something from the future.
Yeah, and this is from these are two different Space Echoes. So these are tape delays. So you've heard of an Echoplex.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Let me see. My lid is closed here. It's screwed on. But anyway, there's
so
a tape
it's
that runs
yeah. It's like a legitimate analog tape delay. Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. Wow.
Yeah, so tons of issues and very difficult to keep running.
Yeah.
But so much fun and a totally different experience than just running your digital delay. So, if I like was going into a situation where this had to work no matter what, I wouldn't bring it. You know,
right?
Digital delay, 100%.
But that's also where a lot of the fun from the studio comes. You know, when someone has a really, I mean, I've seen those things in studios, and they're amazing on record. And you might have to pull it off live with something else, but like, you know, the record's forever. So,
for sure.
Yeah, that's super fun. Sick.
Very difficult to get serviced. You know, like I gotta go to Atlanta to get that.
There's like one dude, the one old guy who specializes in it. Jeez.
Yeah.
See, that's the kind of gear that I would that's a nightmare to me. Like if I was on tour in Detroit and I had to see some special, like it's just crazy.
Yeah. No, it doesn't make any sense to have that anywhere other than the studio or just for fun. Yeah. You know?
I mean, I would love to play with one. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. You're welcome to come check it out, man.
Hey, yeah. Wait, so if for those who don't know, we also, I guess we live really close to each other.
Yeah. Where do you live?
Under Vulcan.
Oh, nice.
Not to give away,
you're right down the street.
Not to give away too much information on my personal whereabouts.
City specific.
Yeah.
Right down the street then.
Cool.
Yeah, you're welcome to come check it out. Play through the tape.
I'll bring you some really modern stuff.
That sounds good.
Because right now I'm playing a tube head with a load box built into it, so you can DI it into your audio interface, which is just like some of the craziest technology that amps have seen so far. Yeah. So actually right now I am playing like a very analog rig for what I'm used to, but like I can run it digitally.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what's the brand of the...
So the head is from Rev, REVV.
Yeah.
It's a Canadian amp company.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah, they're awesome dudes. I've known them. So my first time at NAMM 4 years ago, I just knew one of the dudes worked for them, so they just let me crash at their house with like all their stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, sick dudes.
Yeah, very cool.
Huge shout out to Rev.
Last year, for my first time.
So do you normally go to Summer NAMM in Nashville?
No.
Really? Yeah. So you mainly just stick with Winter NAMM?
No, I only went once. I was actually in San Diego, buying a '54 Gibson Les Paul Gold Top. And, the Winter NAMM's up in LA.
Yeah.
So, and I have some family in Los Angeles. So I had a buddy works at Gibson. He was like, yeah, I can get you a guest pass. So, I just kind of popped up there.
How was that? Because your first NAMM experience is like, what is happening?
I don't think I got the full NAMM experience because I feel like the full NAMM experience is like you do a full day, of talking to people, and then you get to the end of the day, then you go out for like
to the after parties and
yeah. See, I didn't get that. I was just there for a couple hours.
I mean, I usually never end up going to those because by the end of the day of me talking to people, I'm like, I want to go to my hotel room and play video games. Yeah, I need to isolate.
And funny enough, I hear about the NAMM flu going around. Whew. I was like, man, I got lucky. I didn't get the real NAMM flu.
Yeah, because this past year. This past year was your first time?
Yeah.
Wow, so I was there too. That's crazy.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. I try to go every year just because, like, I don't know. I'm endorsed by companies, so just being there and seeing their newer stuff and, like, kind of putting a face to the name, it's just the best place to be.
Yeah, for sure.
Are there a lot of vintage kind of stuff you could see there, or?
No,
Yeah, it's
pretty
mainly
much
just
none.
new wave.
Yeah, but I do have some friends that just work in different places, mostly Gibson. So it's cool to see what they're doing, mixing things up. There's usually a guitar show that happens around that time.
Okay, just to
But
kind of like be an
yeah,
event off. Yeah.
catch the kind of traffic from that. But I didn't make it to that. Didn't have enough time.
The
And
coolest
I
thing for
just
me,
bought that
man,
guitar.
is you go to NAMM, you see everybody. Like
Yeah.
as even with like as far as like the Ibanez Titans, like Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Paul Gilbert, all those
Yeah.
dudes are usually just walking around in there, and it's just crazy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
wild.
it's cool. I was so
It's
funny.
musical Disneyland, dude.
Yeah, it was funny. Like I had been chatting with Celise Henderson on Instagram, just about different guitars. Are you familiar with her?
I don't think so.
Um, yeah, just good player. Plays a lot of vintage or kind
Yeah.
of vintage inspired and vintage stuff. And then I was hanging out in the Gibson kind of room, and then I hear someone walk up to the mic, and it's Celise Henderson. I was like, oh wow, yeah,
Yeah,
this is
that's
what happens
crazy.
at NAMM, I
Yeah.
guess. So it was a good time. Yeah, hope to go back, but it's kind of tough to get out to.
Yeah,
I guess they're not
man.
having this
They're
year.
definitely not gonna. I don't think it's gonna be. I
Yeah,
mean, like, how do you have an event that's that packed? Like, if I
not
had to
happening.
like, yeah, if I had to describe like the most busy event of my life, it would be NAMM.
Yeah,
Because like, there's just tens of thousands of people just packed into that
yeah,
event center. It's crazy. So
it's wild.
it's sad. It's really sad because that NAMM was honestly like one of the only few times where I would meet a lot of these industry people face to face,
Yeah,
shake hands, and then that's like taboo now. You don't want to meet face to face. You
right.
don't want to shake hands with people.
Yeah,
It's a weird year, man.
yeah. So did you were you invited by a manufacturer, or did you just buy a ticket,
So
or
no.
was it?
I've always been under either Ibanez, which I've been an Ibanez artist since 15.
Cool.
Um, so those are just
Nice.
my boys. I could get in with Ibanez anytime I
Cool.
wanted.
I
Mainly
love
I have
Ibanez
to like
guitars.
even when they get me in, like I have to fly out from Alabama, and it's a huge price tag on me anyway. So it's like,
Yeah.
and I have
Yeah.
so
No,
many
it's
friends that are like, yeah, I live 20 minutes down the road. I decided to stop by, and I'm like, cool.
yeah.
It's so hard.
No, man. Like Ibanez guitars, like current run, like models of Ibanez guitars, I'm not familiar with, but the ones that came out in the 1970s and like early 80s, I have gotten super into.
Okay, so
And
you're probably thinking like, God, what is it? I mean, that's Steve Vai really revolutionized the gym back then, and then
yeah, so pre-gym is kind of my time
okay, and
period.
then I can't think of the name, but it's like the really brightly colored black pick guard ones. Those,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, well, I mean, there's the custom agent. Is that the one you're talking about? The one we were chatting about
Oh
at
yeah,
the
we talked
coffee
about that
shop?
one the other day. Yeah, I forgot about
Um,
that one.
yeah. For the people that didn't hear that conversation, I've been working on a story about the Ibanez custom agent, which was a model that Ibanez made in like 74 to 78 or something like that. The body looks like a Les Paul, but the headstock looks like a Gibson F5 mandolin.
A
And
mandolin.
yeah, like it's a scroll headstock.
Right.
It looks awesome. And the kind of folklore is that it was inspired by one guitar that Eric Clapton had, where it was a '59 Les Paul. So today would be $500,000. Of course, if it's his, it'd be $1,000,000. But
Right.
it had the headstock broken off, and then there was a luthier in New York who grafted on a scroll headstock. And we think that Ibanez saw
Just
that
saw
guitar
that one
and
guitar.
then kind of ripped it
Which is
off.
even weird too, because all of Ibanez's like market meetings, all of that like big ideas and conversations, they happen in Japan still. So someone had to
Yeah,
see that guitar, take it to Japan, or put an email in somewhere, or whatever people
well,
did
yeah,
back in the day.
it was an American guy that was kind of working with, I'm trying to remember the parent company, Elger at the time.
Okay.
I think they've since sold. So, but yeah, he kind of communicated with them, sent the kind of like sketched it out to them, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, this is cool." And the name is so funny too because it's called the Ibanez Custom Agent. I think the The number is like 2405, maybe. Need to go look that up.
Ibanez is
But
so terrible about model names. I hate it.
well, that's the funny
I start
part.
talking to them all the time about.
It's actually a joke because they were having trouble with customs at the time. So the guitar is named after the customs agent, but they called it the custom agent. So anyway,
I mean, it's a good name. It's a solid name.
They kind of trolled him a little bit.
I would love for you to start flipping more Ibanez. That'd be a nice little.
Yeah, they are. It seemed to be that time period are harder for me to find than like Gibsons and Fenders from the 50s and 60s that can make my time more kind of worthwhile.
Well, and like back in the day, those were the most popular ones. So it's like,
yeah,
you're going to have a bigger influx of those instruments from those time periods because that's what everyone was playing.
Yeah.
And now it's very different.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it is kind of surprising. I always kind of feel like, when am I going to get to the point where like no one cares about vintage guitars? Kind of worried that might happen for 10 years, and I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
Well, the more time goes on, the more stuff becomes vintage too.
Right, but
eventually in 10 years you can move your timepieces up 10 years. You know what I mean? Like you can start dealing with 80s and like it's just.
Well, the vintage guitars are not collectible because of how old they are. They're collectible because of how they were made and then what was done with them after they were made. So like.
Okay, that's a good way to word that. I've never thought about that.
Yeah, like the 70s and 80s weren't a great time for musical instrument manufacturing. Certainly not for American manufacturers. They're much better for like the Japanese manufacturers, like Ibanez and I don't know, a bunch of smaller brands. But 70s Gibsons, some of those can be kind of not great guitars.
Yeah.
So yeah, but there's definitely stuff in the 70s that is very cool. Like one of the guitars I've been working on lately is called the Starcaster. You're familiar with the Fender Starcaster?
Yeah, I am.
It's a weird guitar. Many people just hate them. It's like the most polarizing, guitar out there. But it's essentially a Gibson ES335 with the offset style waist of a Fender, and then a bolt-on neck. But I posted a video about a year ago about I had been on the website of the guy that actually designed it. His name was Gene Fields.
Wow.
And he worked at Gibson 1961 to about 1982 or 3. Then he left and made his own pedal steel company called Gene Fields Industries. And they're still around. His son-in-law actually owns it now. He passed in 2014. But there was a picture of a Starcaster on that website that had all these weird features on it. Like it only had 4 knobs. It didn't have the 5th master volume knob. And I was just like, wow, that's a cool guitar. So I reached out to the son-in-law, and they said that was the prototype that Fender gave Gene Fields back after he designed it.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, I'd love to have that guitar. So I posted a video, help me find this guitar. It should be easy to spot with only 4 knobs and just all these weird features. Gene Fields' family said that he sold it to Guitar Center in Dallas in the 90s. And I was like, okay, well, we got somewhere to start.
Oh my gosh. It's like a detective game. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. It gets more fun.
All right.
A week and a half ago, I dropped down to my computer, and it was a Saturday morning, open up reverb.com, and I'm like, oh, Starcaster. Wait a second. That Starcaster has 4 knobs. I just hit the buy button. I was just like, screw it, I'm having that. It's like $3,500, which was like, basic, maybe low market for a Starcaster. I was just like, whatever. I'm just gonna figure out what that is because it's the only other 4-knob Starcaster I've ever seen. I started looking at it and I was like, this is the guitar. This has to be the guitar, and it's coming out of Detroit. And I'm like, what is the story on this thing?
Yeah, Guitar Center in Dallas in the 90s.
So I reached out to the seller. I was like, hey, man, I just bought that guitar. I'm so excited to get it. What is this? What is the story of this guitar? And he was like, man, I actually follow you on Instagram, so I'm glad you're getting it, which was so cool because he's
wow.
had seen my store and like the stuff that I do. So he was like, yeah, I bought it from a guy on Craigslist for $500. I was like, okay.
That's so
great.
Weird.
Good for you, like make some money. I'm happy to get it. I don't care what I have to pay, like if this is the one, that it doesn't matter,
Right.
So So he comes in, and I start looking at it, and I only have like one out of focus picture of the prototype, and I'm like, this has got to be the same guitar, but I really can't see the grain lines like in high enough definition to know for sure.
Right.
So I reached back out to Gene Fields' family and was just like, if there's any blueprints with serial numbers or anything, let's see if we can, figure this out. And they're like, no, there's no paperwork. So I reached out to my friend at Guitar Center. He kind of runs their vintage division, and he looks up the serial number. It actually had 2 serial numbers with it, which was really weird. It had the serial number on the guitar, which didn't make sense. It was like a 1969 or 1970 serial number. The guitar didn't come out till like 74, 75. So I was like, that's weird. And then it also had like a hang tag with it with a serial number from 1976. And I was just like, well, just look up both of these just in case, it's in there. He said it wasn't in there. I posted about the guitar on Instagram, and one of the luthiers that I follow that works at Groom Guitars in Nashville, he's been in the game a long time. He was like, I remember that guitar. It was hanging up over the door in the Dallas Guitar Center with a plaque that said it was the prototype.
Oh, so the Guitar Center knew it was there. That was it?
Apparently so. So how does it get sold?
On Craigslist.
On Craigslist for $500. I contacted Guitar Center. I was like, if this is stolen, we need to figure this out now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do the right thing.
Because that's what it sounds like it happened.
Yeah. And I have not received anything back. So in the interim, I get another email back from Gene Fields' family, and he's like, yeah, I just looked through the pictures again, and it's hard to say, I can't really tell. I'm like, wait a second, pictures? I thought
multiple?
I only have one picture, and they're like, yeah, we've got more pictures. So they sent me the scans of the pictures. They were high enough resolution to match up the grain. So it is in fact the prototype Starcaster. Somehow came from Guitar Center in the 90s, and I just happened to like.
That thing had to have been stolen.
I agree.
Yeah, because it's even by the door. I don't know.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Guitar Center says it's not in their system. So I'm like, you didn't log the.
Well, right. It sounds like they didn't log the right serial number. If they, you know what I mean. And that's what, when you get to thinking about those big corporations, that's you're probably even thinking about some guy with a part-time job. He's just typing numbers in a keyboard, and then it's
maybe so.
There's no telling.
Any of your friends or listeners have any access to Guitar Center?
If any of you guys stole this guitar, you need to tell us now.
Don't tell me.
That's crazy. No, yeah, that's the fun thing about what you do. It's like there's stories attached, and and you were saying you kind of have like a blog going about like where you kind of tell these stories.
Yeah, well, kind of post a lot of the stories on Instagram, and then in like the story section, I'll kind of go through and like talk kind of more in depth.
Do you have anywhere where you write the blogs out, like for
yeah,
okay.
It's just the blog section on my website.
Okay.
It's truevintageguitar.com. There's a couple of different. There's like a previous inventory blog where I just kind of post old inventory to kind of show off, to kind of catalog, vintage guitars. Like, let's say you started getting into like Jazz Masters, but you hadn't seen that many of them. I want you to be able to go to my website and look at 5 different ones, and then kind of get a feel for like, what do I like, and what am I willing to pay for it, and what am I not willing to pay for, that kind of stuff. It also seems to help like if there are people looking for information on their guitar, and so they go to the internet, they come across my blog, and then it says, I like these guitars and I'm looking for more. So sometimes they'll reach out and be like, yeah, I have this one to sell. It was my dad's, or something like that. That happens like on a daily basis.
Wow.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, we talked about how it saves you a lot of headache and time when you don't have to search so hard.
Yeah, that's definitely, and I just enjoy telling the stories. It feels like a lot of sellers don't want to sell to a dealer because it feels very impersonal, and it's like, well, he's just going to make money on that. So like, I want it to go to the end user. And yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, I wouldn't have a job. But we don't live in a perfect world.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the times people see dealers as just kind of like greedy and money hungry, and I definitely would like to make money. That's one of the motivations here. I would probably be doing this if I wasn't making
Yeah, but
money.
you could
But
also be sharking people, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's just I don't know.
But I also feel like, I devoted my like career working time to this industry, being not confident that that would pay me for the time that I was going to be in it. So like, so maybe that's proof of passion more so than the person that's not doing it full time. So I don't know, maybe a different way to look at it. People probably see through that and it's like, oh, that just guy's just
No,
flipping guitars.
I don't think people think that way. Especially, I mean, there's so many instruments. You know what I mean? Like it's just not. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't do this if you weren't really passionate about it, because you wouldn't be spending the time researching
Right.
it, and you wouldn't be spending the time, popping up on Reverb every single day
Yeah, you and
looking
you,
what's for
you
sale.
you taught yourself so much knowledge. Like you have to have so much information on just like what you're handling, and that's
Yeah.
like I said, I'm a touring musician who plays guitar professionally, and you know more about guitars than I do. It's like it's just
Maybe about the item as a
right,
machine,
right, yeah.
but not what to do with it.
But
Yeah.
like at the same time, like there aren't many people who are more hands on than me, and you know more about the machines themselves, and it just is. It goes to show that you do have to know a lot about guitars when you do what you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And history too.
Yeah.
Like, what happened at any given time to make this guitar more interesting than the ones made 1 year later. Like why does
Right.
that even matter?
Well, so what
So
has been your favorite through the shop? Do you have like you're just proud moment? Was it in the beginning days or?
proud moment. I have one story that I'm not going to tell yet, but I'm
Okay.
building up to it.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell like the kind of preliminary information is that it was one guitar that I found, and I spent 7 years looking for that one guitar. I chased
Whoa.
it from Canada to Oklahoma, and finally found it. And it was a 1960 Gibson Les Paul Standard.
Ooh.
Many of your listeners know that as a six-figure plus guitar.
Yeah.
And I lost it in 2 days. Just about. The angriest moment of my life in the last that I can remember. Like just it's serious. Like it sounds goofy, but like I
Yeah.
remember seeing this one guitar as I'll know I've made it as like a professional, vintage
Yeah,
guitar
it's your
dealer.
Great White Buffalo, dude.
Yes. Oh my God. And it just hurts too much right now to like tell it in depth because it involves me botching it. I mean, and just not having the skills to
Oh
close.
man. Wow.
I had the skills to find it when no one else did. And then someone just stomped me as soon as it was known what it was, because the sellers didn't know what it was.
Okay, and to make it
And
worse,
I told them.
yeah.
And
So you're also part of the reason that someone
Yeah.
snaked it. So my girlfriend experiences this a lot. She gets
Okay.
like outbid on someone. Like it's just she had an angry day yesterday because
Ooh.
it
It can
actually
be brutal, man.
yeah. So she actually found a bag that she was gonna like double her profits. It's one that she's only ever used before, like gotten through before. It turns out it was from a consignment shop in Midfield. She found it on Poshmark, bought it
Okay.
through Poshmark, found out the seller has a boutique in Midfield, Birmingham. Went to the shop to meet in person so that there was no chance of her losing that bag, and she'd shipped it out that morning to a different person for $50 more. So like,
Oh,
yeah,
that happens, man. I had a story from last year where I saw a Gibson J200 for sale on Reverb, and it was black, and it was from the 1950s, and I was like, this just looks right, even though a black one kind of shouldn't exist. If it's black, it's probably refinished, but if it's not, if it's factory, then it's very, very special.
right.
I mean, like triple the value, just because it's black. Not only that, but I keep scrolling through, and it has the double pick guards like the Everly Brothers. Do you ever seen those?
Yeah.
I keep scrolling through, and they have a picture of a record with the Everly Brothers holding like what appears to be the exact same guitar, and I was like,
Yeah, nice.
There's no way this is actually it, but it was a good price, so I just started checking out, and I was like, I'll just have this, and I'll figure out what it is later. There's no way it's the Everly Brothers J200, but sure looks like it. Even if it's fan fiction, I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Let's get it. So I check out, and it's like error or something wrong with your card, and I'm like, oh, So I start freaking out, like get a different card, and like put the information sold while I was getting the other card information into Reverb.
Yep.
Freaked out, called the seller. They were in Hawaii. I was like, just double the price, I'll take it. And they're like, no, man, sorry, we got to honor that first sale. And I was like, well, I get that.
Good
You got
on
to keep
them.
your
Yeah.
integrity.
Yeah.
Good for you guys. It was the original
Bro,
guitar.
can you tell me a success story?
I got a lot more failures.
Oh, man. God.
Okay, let's talk about two guitars that are like right over here. That are kind of special. So
Okay.
I love the Jazz Masters. I already
Yeah.
showed these twice. This is the one like electric guitar that I'm keeping forever and is never for sale.
Okay.
And I had a woman of Kentucky call me, and she's like, I got a 1964 Stratocaster guitar, and I want to sell it. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, I love Stratocasters, let's check it out. She sends me a picture of that. And I was like,
That's
Jazz
not a Strat.
Master.
Yeah.
So this is like the first Jazz Master that I got after I really understood Jazz Masters and knew kind of like what they should do and why. They're special because of the offset floating bridge. Whoops, I'm getting low on battery.
Okay.
And then proprietary pickups, they are very wide and thin. So the coils are like thin, but they also go out to the edge of this bobbin here. So it's a strange sound. And it just like, I knew when I pulled it out, just this was the one,
Yeah.
Don't know if you have like the one.
I've had the one.
Okay. This is kind of the one for me. This is also a one. So this guy, the owner of this guitar, reached out to me 2 years ago. This is a 1961 Fender Jazzmaster. And pretty nice condition, been played a lot. But
I actually forget. Those are the ones with the little plastic switches on the top side, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's cool because it has a rhythm and a lead circuit. So if you kind of think of two different circuits here, you have volume and tone and 3 pickup selector for this circuit. That would be the lead circuit. And then over on this side, you have a toggle switch for rhythm or lead. So if you have it in the lead switch, you're using this circuit. If you have it in the rhythm side, you're using this circuit, which is only a preset volume, tone, and the neck pickup. So no pickup selector because you're only using the neck pickup.
Okay.
So it's kind of like if you want to switch back between rhythm and lead, you want a rhythm tone that's already preset, and then you want to be able to like toggle your lead. Yeah, it was an interesting idea. It never really panned out.
I can see why.
Yeah, it kind of grew out of like the pedal steel kind of thing.
Because of that idea, it became a phenomenon. Like only jazz masters do that, and now I get it. You know what I mean? Like it's like it's a special thing that those guitars were a part of.
Jazz Masters and Jaguars. But yeah, so I talked for this guy, and I would call him every couple of months. But like we were just having trouble closing. Like he was the original owner, and he just like he loved the guitar, but he never really played it. He wanted to sell, and he had a house in Florida and Connecticut, and he usually drove through Birmingham, Alabama to visit his daughter. And so he was going to try to like just drop by here. And I was like, well, I'll ship it. And he was like, well, I just want to do it in person. I'm like, okay, fine. So I had like on my calendar to call him every couple of months. And I called him 2 weeks ago, and his widow answered the phone.
Oh,
it was so like, it was the weirdest experience, man.
Yeah.
She was super sweet. And I was just like, hey, is Ron there? And she's like, who is this? And I told her who I was. And she's like, I'll have to call you back. So then she calls me back, kind of composes herself, and just told me what happened. He had a heart attack and died. And I was like, I am so sorry. This is not my intention,
Yeah, you were just doing what you're supposed to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and it happened like 3 days before. Um, and she was like, I remember Ron talking about you, and he always wanted to stop through Birmingham, and he wanted you to have this guitar. So I'm going to sell it to you and use the money to fund the funeral. So
Wow.
I overnighted
Wow.
her a check.
That's a
Um,
success story. That's a really great success story.
yeah,
Even though it
uh,
ends in
it was heavy,
tragedy.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
just didn't see that coming, like
Yeah.
fully expected just to kind of, shoot the shit with this guy and just talk guitars again. And so that was, yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff, I deal with a lot of kind of families who have inherited a valuable guitar and don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a common occurrence, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
No, yeah, I get that. I get
yeah,
that. Well, like you said, your battery's getting low. I guess we should
yeah.
come to a
Sorry.
conclusion. No, it's completely all right. If anyone wants to ask John questions, I'll relay them. I have
Yeah.
a question that I just typically end with. Do you believe in aliens?
Oh, I would really like to. I
Okay.
mean, I believe in we don't have enough information.
There you go. That's fair.
Like we only have information of a stone's throw from what we got, considering the entirety of everything. So
That's
we
a
got to
good
get
way
some
to
more
word that. We
information.
don't know enough about what's going on in our backyard. We don't know what's going on in
Yeah,
space.
we don't even know what's at the bottom of the ocean, really.
Dude,
So
I just went to the beach for like a little vacation, and
nice.
we were watching
Jealous.
some program on the TV, falling asleep, where they were fishing for giant squid in
Nice.
like submarines that were like way deep. It's just crazy. So
Love it.
it's so funny you bring that. Augie just asked the darkest question ever. What would he
All right.
want with his guitars if something ever happened to him?
Oh yeah. So I had a baby boy in July.
Oh,
So
congrats,
our
dude.
first child. Thank you.
They will
He,
inherit the empire.
here's the problem. We think he's left-handed, which
Ooh.
is great for him. Probably going to be a more creative person.
Hey, I'm left-handed and I play
Okay.
right-handed, so
Okay.
don't.
So maybe it's not an issue at all.
Nah, it's
But
not an issue.
I know that left-handed players who play left-handed and also like vintage guitars have a really tough time finding guitars.
Yeah.
And have to pay a lot more, unfortunately, when they find them. So anyway, I would like. I don't want them to be a burden to my family, so I want them to be sold, and for that money to go towards making memories for whoever's left around to enjoy that. So suppose so.
That's awesome.
I haven't really thought that much about it, but I suppose I should.
My chat is getting
yeah,
real with it.
that's cool. Let's get real. I'm all about it.
Does he know about the brand called Arbor? I've got an old Les Paul body style bass I inherited from my gramps. It was made in Korea. It's called an Arbor.
Yeah, I was about to say it kind of sounds like a Asian import brand. I typically stick with USA made guitars and also
which
Ibanez guitars.
He just reminded me. My dad still has this guitar. It's called an Electra. You know those guitars?
Okay, yeah.
It's the Les Pauls with like the yeah. That guitar is wild. Yep.
Yeah. They have a bass that I used to play with my buddy's band, and the bass player had an Electra. Forgot the name of it, but it has all these like weird cartridges with like effects and stuff.
So
right?
weird, dude.
I want to play with those more.
His is a piece of shit. he had I think he bought it super cheap because someone broke the neck in half, and he had a guy who could like fix it.
Yeah, that's cool.
But it's like I had never heard of an Electra in my life.
Yeah, they have like the peace sign logo.
Yep, it's the peace sign, but like one of the little pieces is missing, so it looks like an E on one side.
That's exactly. Okay, right. Yeah. Yeah, those are cool. I want to get more of those, but I haven't really had much luck finding them, I suppose.
Well, dude, this has been awesome. I'd love to stop by. I'd bring you some gear to play with, and maybe I could play a vintage guitar for a little while. I don't know what I can make it sound like.
We didn't even talk coffee. Let's go like 2 minutes on coffee.
All right, coffee. How's that espresso you're pulling?
Thanks so much for the recommendation on the Costa Rica. It was a natural process, but it was also like a.
It's fermented.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
so it's kind of like a fermentation process as well because you're technically doing something with the cherry.
It was
Um,
amazing. I loved it.
yeah,
I don't want to buy like that kind of expensive good coffee like all the time, but to mix it in every once in a
I don't
while,
know,
it
man.
was so
If you're
fun.
passionate about something, like we said, like I've gotten to the point to where I spend a lot of coffee traveling abroad, trying out different shops and stuff. So
Yeah.
like, phew,
Do you have the best coffee app?
I don't.
It's mildly helpful if you go to
Yeah.
like a big city. Sometimes it'll
Well, the
show you
problem
some
is
different
is
coffee shops.
typically, I'm good at finding them for sure. I
Nice.
have a skill.
What's your
Um,
strategy? Do you go to Instagram and search hashtags?
I don't search hashtags. I typically search them on Google and look through the customer
Oh,
photos,
to
and
the photo. Oh, look at the gear. Yeah.
I look at the gear, I look at the latte art, and I look at
Yeah.
mainly the hoppers. If I
Okay.
could tell if the beans and the hoppers are really dark, I'm not going. If it's like I have like my subtle. It's exactly like looking at pictures of a vintage
Yeah.
guitar, man. It's like I could look at a coffee shop and be like, I don't want it.
Yeah.
I don't need
No,
that.
I have a very similar experience. I just less information,
Did
but I
you
definitely look through the
did you
pictures
try
on
the
Google.
Kosageshe from our shop?
Yes, and I think it it was really good. I think it could have been dialed just a little bit more. I think it maybe had been a little bit time. I know it's tough to keep that kind of coffee dialed in 24/7.
Well, we only got the one bag, and it was super
Yeah,
expensive. So we
yeah.
were just
I
there
was
was
glad to
nothing.
try it, but I feel like the results I was getting out of that Costa Rica,
Now,
you were kind of
because you like to try these origins, pulling espresso gets difficult because
Yeah.
you really do have to waste a decent amount of coffee every time you
Yeah.
pull a shot.
Yeah.
Do you ever mess with pour overs, or you just don't like black coffee in that sense? Because you never get that stuff when you come to the shop either.
So like so I tried to get single origin espressos, and that was one of the questions I was going to ask you. Like, what do you look for in a coffee shop? What I look for is interesting single origin espresso or really good blends if they have a blend, and to kind of serve by itself. I
So
don't really get.
funny enough, I mainly only drink iced coffee.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I know I got to try like an iced pour over, but
Iced
love
pour overs
espresso,
to me are whew. So if a shop does it, I'm pretty much already headed that way anyway because it's so hard to find shops that do that even. But yeah, I'll taste because most shops have an espresso, right? They have like their blend, like ours is the Iron Fist. We always have that.
It's good.
Yeah, it's good. It's an espresso. We make it to cut with milk to do lattes. Cappuccino is one of my favorite drinks too.
Yeah.
Because a cappuccino, you can really taste espresso, but then you also have to be able to taste like what someone can do with their milk texture and stuff like that. So texture, like cappuccinos, I'm a little picky about in other shops.
Yeah.
But man, I don't know. Pour overs, it was my first love, and now it's maybe because it's essentially how we cup our coffees. Like we all get in a room and taste them and talk tasting notes and stuff.
I got into coffee through espresso, and I've kind of stuck with it.
Yeah.
I got whatever I could for like I've never worked in a cafe, which sucks because I really like to, but I also just need to keep doing what I'm doing.
Right.
So I had a La Pavoni Europa Cola, the kind of lever espresso machine. I had that for like 5 years.
I love that stuff. Like lever pressure, like you're pulling that. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's tons of fun, but like very inconsistent. But then 2018, I had been eyeing the La Marzocco Linea Mini for just since it came out. And
such a sick single group head machine. It's awesome.
So I got one. My wife was like, that was another one of the things where she was like, you just got to get that.
Yeah.
So we love it, just exploring like how to texture milk properly. Of course, all the different espresso, like I can vary the temperature to like the 10th of a degree. That's pretty cool.
That's pretty wild.
Does not have pressure profiling, so I have not messed with that very much. But I feel like I'm not quite there in my
so
skill.
Our machine at the shop is manual, so I'm controlling the pressure it's going through at all times. I don't think I can control the temperature at all though.
Oh,
so that's
interesting.
Yeah, it's opposite on that end.
Wow. Yeah, would love to like play with one of those machines, but I'm never gonna like work in a coffee shop.
It's
Or I don't
hard,
know, maybe I
man.
will. I'd love to.
Yeah, hey, you never
I
know.
know it's hard work.
You
Like,
might
and
you might have people under your employment selling guitars and open up your own
yeah,
coffee shop. You never know what's
dude,
gonna happen,
I
man.
would be all about it.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see what Jimmy does with his cafe.
Yeah, I
And
love Jimmy. We've only had him for a little while,
yeah,
and I'm gonna be bummed to let him go.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Jimmy's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Just espresso is kind of the thing that really drew me to it. Just, I don't know. It's like
It's
you
funny
really
you
can't
say
get
that because even when I typically go to other shops, like one of my favorite shops in Germany is called Man vs. Machine, and
Okay.
I had a siphon from them, and
Oh, wow,
that's
yeah.
that's still just a black coffee. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
it's still not
Yeah.
a shot. But at
Yeah.
the same time, I think I do really enjoy it. Like the lever pull. I actually really love AirPress, Chemex. All the handmade
Mhm.
coffee methods are really intriguing to me because that kind of feels like the most bare bones way of getting coffee.
Yeah.
I'm really into. They're making like a lot of little handheld espresso pullers, like
Yeah.
stronger versions of the AirPress that get like up to 12 bars of pressure when you use your hand. Like it's
Cool.
just I love that stuff. I don't know why.
Yeah. I haven't messed with it that much. For so long I didn't have access to a machine that could properly make espresso, so I don't really want to go to.
Well, that's another
machines
thing
that-
too. It's like when you get into espresso machines, they get so expensive. The price
wild.
tag attached to espresso machines are wild.
Yeah. If I wasn't working from home,
Yeah,
I
you probably wouldn't have bothered
could
with it.
Could
Yeah.
make sense. But yeah, I mean, my wife loves kind of me making her coffee and good lattes, and now she likes it more since I kind of am a little more familiar with how to texture milk and make espresso.
Yeah.
So,
well, man, yeah, we
going
definitely
out,
we definitely need to link up. I need to come
yeah,
play with your gear and your coffee
Yeah.
maker.
absolutely. We can play Space Echoes and La Marzocco.
That sounds so sick. Space
Yeah,
Echo, that sounds like something magical to me, honestly, because
They're
that's like
tons of
something I'll
fun.
never get my hands on otherwise.
Yeah, they don't make a lot of sense, and they're very unpredictable, which is kind of the fun part.
Right?
It's like,
Yeah, it is for sure.
and I think it depends on your age too. If you kind of grew up in the time period where you had to use those, you probably hate them because it's like, thank God we don't have to
Right.
bother with this
Yeah.
crap anymore. But if you're like, I'm 31, so like I never really saw an analog, delay machine. I didn't mess much with tape.
I
and
wouldn't
so-
have unless like I dive as hard into gear as I do now, because like now I'm kind of reaching your side of it where like
Cool.
I love what different gear can do to different types of playing.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm headed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would love to. It sounds so fun.
Yeah, man. Anytime. Shoot me a text.
Well,
I'm-
is there
I'm
anything
probably
you want to
around.
give a shout out to? You already said truevintageguitar.com. That's his website.
Yeah, would love to connect with folks on Instagram. That's kind of like
Okay.
2013 is kind of when I started doing Instagram. It's at True Vintage Guitar.
I
and
think a
kind of how
couple
I-
of the people in the chat already said they looked at it and they're
Nice,
talking about
awesome.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much. Would love to connect with you guys. Yeah, man, that's kind of if you come across any old guitars and want some information, hit me up. If you want to sell, that's great too. If not, totally cool. No pressure here. But yeah, if you need help with like dating different stuff, identification, happy to help.
Wow. Thank you, John. This has been awesome.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much. This is a blast.
Yeah, dude. If you ever want to do it
Yeah.
again, I have return guests, talk about whatever. But
Right.
I'm really glad we had this conversation, and I
Yeah.
will see you in the shop probably this week.
Yeah, man. Definitely. Let's do it.
All right. See you, dude.
All right. Catch you later, man.